Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B, and this is my awakening. I am sharing with you in hopes that some of the things that is coming to my level of awareness will help facilitate healing for others. So what happened this morning is I've had a major breakthrough, I think. And breakthroughs come with massive breakdowns. So they do, piecing the puzzle together of why you are the way you are, why you behave the way you behave, why you fear what you fear, it's like going on, a magical mystery tour. There was a television program a couple of years back called Blindspots, I think it was. And this woman was covered in tattoos, and each one was like a clue leading her into like a piece of memory that she had forgotten. I loved the show, and I found it very fascinating. And the concept of it really applies to trauma work. Because we're constantly in an observer and an investigative role. We are our own detectives in trying to understand why we respond the way we respond to certain situations, and why certain situations trigger the bejesus out of us. That's why triggers are such an opportunity for healing. And the trigger for me as of late has been this bloody car. And listen, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that I should be grateful. So I am grateful, but it's also triggering the crap out of me. And, I've been digging and digging and digging because what's been happening is, I have this huge fear. I thought I had identified the root of the fear, but apparently you have to dig a little bit deeper sometimes. Because it wasn't the fact that I had little accidents growing up. I've talked in a previous video a long time ago about how, when I was 12, I was in a boating accident. It wasn't like a huge catastrophe accident or anything, but it was an accident nonetheless, which made me call into question my ability to drive because I was mocked severely. It was, really quite a silly scenario, and it should never have turned into a trauma because the actual incident itself wasn't really that big a deal, but what happened afterwards, it turned into a huge deal. And so the story goes, I was driving in my little 6-horsepower putt-putt boat, and there were two visitors visiting the neighbors, and I was trying really hard to get them to like come and play and like let's do something, but they just sat on each side of their mom. So it was suggested to me to take them to the marina since they were already overweight, so candy might appeal to them to get them away from their mother, which in fact did work. But so in a little 6-horsepower boat, they were sitting in front of me, and then there was another girl sitting at the head of the boat, so I really couldn't see. And at 12, I was like, well, I know my way around, I know the way to the marina and my 6 horsepower. With that many bodies in the boat, it was probably going about 2.5 horsepower. So it's not like we were going like any great speed or anything like that. And I knew my way relatively, but like I couldn't see. I had blind spots, so I did. And I ended up driving right into another boat of two guys fishing because in my memory of how to get to the marina, there wasn't a boat in front. And literally the two guys were like, they'd put out their hand and they stopped the boat from hitting their boat. So like there was no crash, there was no devastation, there was no like drama. It was a minor incident where a very boat going this fast, putt, putt. And a dude grabbed hold of it and he's like, whoa, gotta see where you're going, little girl. And I was like, I'm so sorry, you know. But it turned into a big deal because these girls ran home and they told their mom, and then their mom told my mom, and then my mom ridiculed me for 30 odd years. To make matters worse, that winter not long after, I was in a snowmobiling accident. And again, it was a minor incident, and I was going around a corner and there was a steep hill, and I wasn't going too fast, but because of the steep hill, I slid down really slow, like in slow motion. And there was a catamaran on a trailer parked, and the snowmobile hit the tail, you know, not even a light, you know, a reflector. It hit the reflector and it broke the reflector. So like a tiny little plastic piece that probably cost all of $4 to replace was cracked. And that just gave more like, you can't drive, you're a horrible driver, you're like ridiculing me. So I thought, because of these two incidents, that's where my fear of driving originated. But that is not the case. And, you know, I've been talking time and time again because, you know, I bought myself 2 new copies of these books. And if you haven't read these books, please read these books. Okay, please do yourself a favor and read these books. I'm going to keep promoting them left, right, and center. The first one is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. The brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma. Okay? So this is like the crux of, like, this is like really, truly understanding trauma. Okay? So if you haven't read this book and you think you know something about trauma, you don't. Read this book and then you can say you know something about trauma. And this book is... I have the whole box set, okay, of Gabor Mate's works. But this one says here, is by Gabor Mate, When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress. These 2 books changed my life. These 2 books set me off on a trajectory to save myself, to heal myself from the physical illnesses, because my awakening began because my body, when my awakening began, my body was fat, inflamed, diseased, disordered, in chronic pain, not functioning. It was bad. Okay, my body was screaming no. My body wasn't saying no. My body was like screaming it at top pitch because my body was keeping, the body was keeping all of the trauma inside of me, you know, despite 30 odd years in and out of psychotherapy and every other type of counseling under the sun. Okay, so I want that to be known. Okay. I did all the normal protocols according to old theory in regards to mental health, right? Go to your doctor, get a prescription for antidepressants because you're depressed, right? No, you have trauma. I went to counselors that specialized in everything under the sun. I went to trauma. At the time, they said they were trauma-informed. They were not trauma-informed. I did cognitive behavioral therapy. I did dialectic behavioral therapy. I did social workers up the wazoo. I did psychiatrists, psychologists. I did specialists in personality disorders. And that's where, and I will repeat this, I did not diagnose my mother, nor did my mother get diagnosed. But I did go to a specialist in personality disorders as counseling for me in my 20s, long before the term narcissism was the new phrase. And that doctor who specialized in personality disorders diagnosed my mother, as much as he could. He couldn't obviously give her an official diagnosis, but as far as I'm concerned, when a doctor says everything you're describing is because your mother has narcissistic personality disorder, tends for me to believe the doctor. So a lot of people out there love to minimize and say stupid, dumb things like, well, were they diagnosed? Yeah, as close as a narcissist is going to be diagnosed, because they'll never say there's anything wrong with them and they'll never put themselves in counseling. Yes, I had an actual doctor who specialized in personality disorders inform me into the best of his ability, without being able to have an official diagnosis, tell me that my mother had narcissistic personality disorder. And he told me in my 20s to read up on it back then, and that was many moons ago, and recommended the book, Ilan Guillaume. I'm going to find that book and I'm going to put it, I'm going to link it here. I'll have to edit this video. And it started me down the path. But having a knowledge, having knowledge that, I was raised by a narcissistic person, doesn't clear the trauma. Okay, so that's where I'm kind of cutting to the having the knowledge, going to the counselors, discussing things, understanding the psychology, knowing, I knew lots of things. I researched lots of things. I read lots of books about narcissism and many along the path. Another one was The Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers. Very good book. I'll find that and recommend that one as well. If you happen to have a mother who is a malignant narcissist, very useful. So I had a lot of knowing, but that did nothing to heal my trauma. Being educated and being able to go into an office with a psychologist and sit down and say, yes, I could tell my stories like I was reading like a newsreel, like no emotion whatsoever, because I was completely detached from my emotions, right? Yes, this happened to me. Yes, I was adopted. Yes, I was abused. Yes, this was said. Yes, that was done. And it was like, it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't healing anything. For 30 years, I was going in circles from this specialist to this specialist and not healing anything. And so when I read these books, I was like, because the problem can't be solved in your mind. Trauma cannot be solved in the mind. Trauma is solved in the body, because that's where the trauma is. That's where the emotional memory is lodged in your body. It's muscle memory. Your muscles are remembering. And so we think in society, right? We think we are the age of reason, the age of enlightenment. We're wise people. We know things. What do we know? We know nothing. Like, in 50 years from now, they're going to look back at how we have treated children, how we have raised our children, how we have handled mental health, how we've handled physical health, especially in North America. We're going to look back and we're going to think, oh my God, this is barbaric. No different than we look back now and think of the 1950s, when there used to be institutions and insane asylums where we used to perform lobotomies, okay? So we're going to look back in 50 years and we're going to equate how we have treated people by utilizing pharmacological solutions as basically chemical lobotomies. And we're going to go, what the hell were we doing to those humans? Like, that's crazy. Oh my God. We're going to think that's crazy now, because we now understand, thanks to professional geniuses, that trauma is not something you can solve in the mind, because trauma is in the body. Trauma is in the body. That's where we store it. And so when we have the trauma in our body, we desperately seek out ways to repress it and keep it locked down because we got to appear normal. And so then it's exacerbated and compounded by absolutely nonsensical, non-human ways to exist in the world. Like, we've lost our humanity because we've lost our ability to emote. And we now diagnose all emotions as disorders. You know, if you have too much sadness, that's a disorder. If you have fluctuating emotions, that's a disorder. If you have anxiety, that's a disorder. You know, and what's really happening is you're not disordered. Your body is overloaded with these muscle memories and these energetic imprints that are in us that were never allowed to come out of us in a safe environment. And so we just keep trying to like pack it down. And we try to think our way out of the problem. Well, I've been thinking my way out of the problem for 30 years with no success. Now for 6 years, I've been feeling, I've been sensing, I've been experiencing through the body, understanding first, okay, so my first mission in saving myself, because as I said, nobody's coming, okay? So if you're seeking solutions outside of yourself, which I was doing, going to the doctors, going to the counselors, going to the others, the experts, you know, help me, save me from my suffering. They aren't going to save you. You need to save you. So my first mission was saving my body. Okay. So regulating, getting my body back functioning. Okay. So body not functioning for a long time, holding on to all the traumas, screaming at its top lungs, no, because it's inflamed, it's diseased, it has diabetes, it has fibromyalgia, it has sinus issues, I've got sleep apnea, I've got peripheral neuralgia down my left leg, I've got incontinence, I've got migraines, I've got fat, I've got irritable bowel syndrome, I've got, you know, like menstrual cramps, like they're bringing me to the hospital so bad. I have chronic pain in my lower back. I can't walk up a flight of stairs without being pushed from behind or dragging my sorry ass up. I was a mess. So my body was screaming, no more, no. My body knew what my mind did not, because my mind was like, oh, it must be menopause or perimenopause. Oh, it must be a chemical imbalance. It must be, you know, serotonin is not working correctly in my brain. It must be, yeah. That's what the mind was saying, but the mind was wrong, because trauma is not understood by the mind, okay? So I had to save myself, and the first mission in saving myself was to clear out the inflammation and clear out the candida in the gut and heal the leaky gut. And I've done a lot of videos on the body, and there's a body playlist. Granted, they're a couple years old, so they're like kind of an earlier version of me. And if somebody wants me to do an updated version of what I did to heal my body, let me know, and I can make a video about that. And once my body started getting, you know, back in shape, what happened was all of the stuff that the body was holding on to, all of the memory, the muscle memory was beginning to release, you know? And so I used a lot of body work to help facilitate the release of that emotional memory. A lot of trigger point therapy, cupping, hot and cold, massage, the hot tub. I had a hot tub before, so that was, I'd sit on the jets and it would rub the jets. Any type of like the trigger points of the balls, you know, that my son's softball became my favorite tool. And if you don't have a softball, get a softball. and you'd just lie on like certain points, and it would be like the most excruciating pain you could possibly imagine. But you go into the pain physically to release the pain emotionally. And so I've been doing this and saving myself from all these traumas that my body had carried for years and years and years. And for the last 4 years, that's what I've been doing. I've been saving my inner children. I've been saving my inner women, my inner teenagers, and one after another as these releases, and they're brutal. They're without question brutal. Trauma work, trauma healing, it's not easy. Okay. And granted, I have an amazing coach called Kundalini. Kundalini came along and is pushing it out from the inside, and I'm doing the work from the outside. You know, we're working as a team. I surrendered Kundalini. You know, I surrender. And soul lets you know damn well what needs to go, because all of the things that are holding that trauma in have to go. So that was smoking, drinking, cannabis, pharmaceuticals was a big one, caffeine, constantly doing, pushing past the point of the body's need for rest. Like, I didn't know what rest was. I still struggle with rest. I'm not very good with rest, but you know, it is so hugely important to counterbalance the doing with the resting, and listening to the body, and saying, okay, body, I'm going to give you a break. I'm not going to load you with toxins. I'm going to stop with the hair dye. I'm going to stop with the makeup. I'm going to stop with the body products. You know, all I put on my skin is coconut oil, or olive oil, or castor oil. Those are what I put on my skin. I don't be putting crap on my skin. I don't put you know, all the toxins in my body. I'm going to drink the clear, pure water, no fluoride, no, and clear any other chemicals, the chlorine from the water. I'm going to eat the foods that have a low tox load and low sugar load, because sugar is toxic to humans. It's like consuming tasty poison. And we wonder, you know, why we're sick, and why we're inflamed, and why we have diseases and illnesses and cancer. You know, sugar is cancer's favorite food. But you won't go to a doctor with all their knowledge and they're going to say to you, stop eating sugar. Unless they're a really good doctor that have actually done some holistic education, because their knowledge is limited to the knowledge that was passed on. Okay, so and who pays for medical school? I mean, like who funds the programs? Food industry does. Okay, so you got to follow the money to figure out, okay, who's these experts that I'm seeking? Where are they getting their information from? Is their courses paid for by the sugar board, by the wheat board, by the dairy board? Are they getting donations at the school to keep their courses going? This food pyramid. Who came up with the food pyramid? And you know, you got to ask yourself these questions of where is the knowledge, the thinking of our societal issues coming from? Who's providing that information to us? Because is it working? Is it working? For 30 years, I was doing it their way and it wasn't working. For 6 years, I've been doing it my way, and I've healed all these diseases. I've cleared all these addictions. I've healed my body. Okay, the only thing left in my body now, after where it was, is still I have a fistula that I'm trying to create an environment for it to heal. I still have follow-ups with an oral surgeon to see if that's going to be necessary, but I've got an infrared light palette thing that I use. I've got ozone cream that I'm using, and then I'm giving my body the nutrients that it needs to produce cells. Okay, so cell growth would be great. My pain level went from pain number, out of 10, 12, like it was so bad, 3 years ago, down to about a 1 or 2. 1 or 2. It's like it's not that big a deal. It's an annoyance now, but it's not that big a deal. And like, it was bad. And mild low back pain. Unless I'm in a purge process where Kundalini is pushing something out, which brings us kind of back to where I started, talking about the release and the breakthrough that I'm currently going through. So I've been really confused as to why this whole driving situation is triggering the fuck out of me. Like, I mean, terrified. Like, the fear that I experience, even like thinking about getting in that car to go for a drive, and I've been forcing myself every single day to go for a short little drive. Okay, just go for a short drive, and I'm in the car, and I'm literally like, all the muscles in my back are like tense, and I'm like, I'm doing all the tricks that I know, all the tools that I know to relax your vagus nerve, right? So I'm humming. I have like chanting music on or Reiki music on. As I'm listening, I'm saying affirmations. You are safe. Everything's okay. And my body is like it's an excruciating pain. Like, and my chest is like, and I'm like, come on, you can do this. And so I get my home safely. And there's been like, oh, I took that corner too wide, or, somebody honked at me the other day, and which really freaked me out because I was going exactly 80. I'm like, I am not going above or below. 3 above, 3 below. That's what I'm allowed. 3 above. And they didn't like that because this stretch of highway that I live off of, it's an 80, but most of the people want to go 100, and so and then he's like, I'm doing the speed limit. And that was like, like also now I've got 2 wounds at play. I got this people pleasing. I want to please this fucker behind me. At the same time, I'm like, do 80. That's all you're supposed to do. So I'm sitting here and I'm trying to like, where does this memory come from? This can't just come from like, these minor accidents that is deeper than this. What is going on? So, this whole concept of like saving myself is also bubbling to the surface at the same time of like, I want somebody to save me. Save me from what? What consciousness am I in? And then, sometimes awarenesses come in like giant anvils. Do you remember like those cartoons with the giant anvils that used to land on poor Wile E. Coyote's head? Yeah, that's what it's like. It's like, poof, a giant anvil lands on your head. And I realized I'm in the consciousness of my 2-year-old self. And the driving thing has influenced my life in such a bizarre way. The feelings of helplessness, the feelings of hopelessness, the feelings of loss of agency, the feelings of no value, disempowered, they all originate from the day that some asshole, and I'm sure they didn't mean to be an asshole, but because this was what was culturally acceptable. Again, we're going to look back in 50 years, 100 years of a lot of things that we've done in society that we in society said was fine. It's fine. It's no big deal. And we're going to go, you did what? You did what to children? You did what to people? Yeah. There was a day that somebody came along and shoved me in a car with a little suitcase that, and I still remember this suitcase till the day I die. It was blue with orange and yellow, big flowers, real 1970s suitcase, a teeny tiny suitcase. And there I am, 2 years of age with my teeny tiny suitcase being shoved into a car and buckled up and driving away from my mother, from my history, from my tribe, from my grounding, okay? And there I am. My agency is taken away from my body. So I can only imagine my 2-year-old self unable to cry because I'm in a car with a stranger. I don't know where I'm being taken. I don't know what's happening. Nobody's explaining anything to me. I certainly can't think my way through this process. So my 2-year-old self internalizes it as, I've done something wrong. I've just been rejected. I must have no value. I'm being sent away to some foster care place with a bunch of other rejected children where some questionable things happened. And I have memory of that as well. And I can't cry there. Who do I have there to process through the suffering and the pain and the grief of being ripped away? I can remember in my college course, as I said, I took a native-based, so it was a native-based addictions counseling course. And we went and listened to the elders speak one day. And this one particular elder was telling the story of the belly button. Because the elders teach through story. Interestingly, that's how I teach. They teach through story. And it's not about lecturing anybody. It's about sharing wisdom through learned sensory experience. And he proceeded to tell the story of as the native populations in the olden days had babies, and the babies had their belly buttons, we all did. In traditional culture, when that scab fell off, right? So you close it up, and then over time, in a couple of weeks, whatever, that scab falls out. Now, that's very sacred. Okay, because that represents the connection, the roots, your ancestral line that keeps you grounded. That belly button is so very vitally important. So it was very sacred, and they would bury it, and they would honor the belly button. And over time, that tradition got eliminated. And it got eliminated, of course, because a lot of the native culture got eliminated in similar circumstances of upping the children out of their families and dropping them at residential schools. Now, I'm not saying my experience was anything like that, but I can empathize to the nth degree of the suffering that the native childrens that were put into residential schools experienced. Horrific. You know, that is part of our ancestral lineage. Many of us culturally, if you are pretty much around the world, culturally, that wound exists in your society. Okay, so it exists in you as well. We're carrying that wound. We can't just forget about it. We can't just say it never happened. You know, whether it happened to you or not is actually irrelevant because it's still prevalent in today's society, and today's society is still feeling the cultural ripples out of that, okay? Doesn't matter which side you're on. Doesn't matter if you're French or native, you know? And I was raised to believe that I was Métis. My whole life, I was told I was Métis. My adoption files say that I was Métis. I was this little native girl. So I resonated with that story. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-40s that I got one of those DNA tests. And it was like, no, you're French. And I'm like, what? Like, what? No. And then I was like, I'm nothing. I'm an alien. I'm gonna just not pick a culture. Because either it's crazy, okay? So we take children away from their ancestral line. And as this elder was explaining, they lost their belly buttons. So there's a whole grouping of people out there that are walking around. And, well, you know, we don't honor it in our culture either, in white culture. So there's just millions and billions of people walking around this earth not knowing where their belly button is. Not knowing where their belly button is because it just gets like, oh, well, that's That's just, we don't need that anymore. Instead of understanding the sacredness that is, this is where I'm grounded. This is where I'm from. So you bury that into the ground, and it's like roots you into, this is my tribe. This is my people. This is where I'm from. This is where I belong. And he says a result of an entire generation of people, an entire world of people, is they're desperately looking for their belly button. And in so doing, they're looking for it in all the wrong places, because they don't even know what they're looking for, because they're looking for an energy. So they look for it in alcohol, or they look for it in cigarettes, or they look for it, they're looking for that feeling of history. When you rob somebody of history, you leave them free floating, like a free radical. So here I was at age 2, robbed of my history, shoved in a car against my agency, against my will, against my wanting, against my knowledge, against everything. My teeny tiny little body, 2-year-old body, tense, sitting in a car, and like, where the fuck am I going with my little blue suitcase with flowers all over it? I don't know where I'm going. And then I end up somewhere with complete strangers. And I'm supposed to just be fine, because society back then in the 1970s, didn't believe that trauma, that didn't even exist as a word in our vernacular. Like, perhaps at the time in the 70s, we were just starting to identify PTSD in soldiers. Those that, World War I, World War II came back with, some pretty extreme reactions of things, as well as, Vietnam War really kicked off a lot of PTSD. But PTSD in children, that wasn't a thing. No, that wasn't in our knowledge. So there was this gaslighting that, like, we could do whatever we want with children. It's not going to hurt them. Children are adaptable. Children will, just let them cry it out. Let them cry it out. We actually said, that was actually taught to parents, to let children cry it out by themselves. Talk about a trauma. Imagine a tiny little infant left to cry, their every single muscle in their body going, desperate for connection, for attachment, for love, for compassion, for understanding, and just being so left cry until what happens? Every single muscle goes limp. So yeah, eventually they cry themselves out, because you've just implanted cellular memory of trauma that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives. So we just traumatized an entire generation of people by that simple, absolutely evil medical advice back in the 70s. We're going to come in the 60s. I'm not sure when that one first originated. But yes, so an entire generation of little babies that just learned the world is not safe. The world is non-supportive. The world is non-compassionate. That's what we just taught all of those children. So a great way to completely destabilize an entire generation of people. And we wonder why the world is the way that it is. It's, because nobody knows where their belly button is. Everybody was left to cry. And then we gaslighted the traumas that we did to people, like uprooting them out of their family homes. And it wasn't just adoption. There's many situations where people are taken from their families, but and then put into other families there again. So I go with my little thing. I'm in the car. I'm driving to where I'm supposed to go. I'm okay. And then I'm somewhere for a couple months. And then I'm up in the car again, being shoved in a car again, little suitcase. Now I'm going somewhere else. Oh, this time I'm going back home to mommy. Oh, okay. I'm home with mommy. Oh, no, I'm not. Now I'm off into the car again, driving along. Oh, now where am I? Oh, now I'm in a new foster home. Oh, now I'm in the car again, being shoved in a car again, being driven somewhere else, being driven, and this time I'm being driven to the home that would become my family home. And you know, I have pictures, or at least I did, I don't know where they are right now, of like how small I was when I first arrived at age 2.5 in 1974. September 1974 is when I was adopted. And that little body never had a safe person to hold her and to relax the body and say, it's okay. You're safe now. You're safe now. So instead, all of that trauma, all connected into driving and being driven, was interconnected. And so it gets crazy when we grow up denying that that was even a thing, you know. So any discussions about adoption in my house, it was not like it was a secret that I was adopted, you know, because, well, you know, all of a sudden you're 2.5 and you're being told you have a new mother. It was never a secret, but it was talked about like it was no big deal. Like there was no play therapy or counselors even offered or anything. There was no support, zero support offered from anyone, zero understanding, zero compassion, zero maternal energy of soothing. It's okay. I know. They're there. It's going to be okay. Like, my mother got bored quickly of my needs, and my needs became an annoyance, and like, go sort yourself out. Go sort yourself out is what I was told to do. So in the middle of the night when I'd be having night terrors, I was told, go sort yourself out. You know, and so this wound, this, you know, when you look at across, like a close-up picture of the fascia in your body, it looks like spider webs, okay? And like fascia that has become all gnarled looks like a mess of spider webs. I don't know if you've ever seen like a cross, whatever they call them, like a really close up of the fascia that has a lot of trigger points. So it becomes so tight and like a wool sweater that's been pulled, and you know that, and your fascia is supposed to be almost like etherically liquid in its state. So somebody who has a lot of flexibility and flow and movement has a healthy fascia. And somebody who's all restricted and not much mobility and like can't touch their toes, it's because their fascia, it's not their muscles that are tight. It's the fascia that's tight around their muscles, so their muscles can't, you know, grow and move and, you know, take in oxygen and release oxygen. It's the fascia that's twisting everything. So that can also be around, you know, your knees and your bones, because the fascia connects everything, your tissue, your stomach lining, your heart, you know. So the fascia around my heart, it went like this. You know, like, I have a mom. No, I don't. You know, so you have all this restriction and torque, twisted fascia, and that's what your body remembers. That's the cellular memory that your body is keeping the score of, is it's all locked in your fascia. So your fascia is not like this, which it should be la. I'm yogi and I can put my leg around my head, la da 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 da. So if you're like that, consider yourself very lucky that you don't have memory of trauma locked in your body that is more gnarly in nature. So ask yourself this question right now. How flexible am I? How flexible am I? Where do I feel pain in my body? Physical pain in my body, aches, and where do I not have good flexibility? If I did one of Yoga with Cassandra's yin yoga program that B constantly recommends, do it. Where would it be tight? Am I able to touch my toes? No. Am I able to sit in this position? No. Okay, that's why we need to do the yin yoga. Okay, so the yin yoga is helping to stretch out the fascia so that we can get the fascia back doing what it should be doing. Okay, that's why it's so vitally important that we stretch. And the more we stretch, the more the body that's keeping the score and keeping the memory that's locked within it, the cellular memory, the more it releases. And as it releases, you're going to have emotional floods. So when you're going through trauma release, it looks like emotional dysregulation because it has to come out for it to be regulated. Okay, so the process looks dysregulated before you get to the regulated. No different than the process of breakthroughs come through breakdowns. So as I'm sitting here this morning, wailing, crying like a 2-year-old, like my 2-year-old self is finally being heard that I hate the fucking car because every time I get in a car, I feel like I'm nothing. I am garbage. I am trash. And then comes another flood of an awareness with like an anvil that drops in my head of the realization that this wound was so weaponized against me by my ex who insisted on doing all the driving for me that it kept that belief of absolute disempowerment, helplessness, hopelessness, that I stayed in an abusive marriage because he drove me places. Because I was terrified of having to get myself, I was terrified. It was a fear that and it doesn't mean it's rational. That a 2-year-old mind isn't rational. But this awareness grossed me out. It just, the tears, the floods, that had I had a trauma-informed counselor in the last 30 years, had I been able to face my fears of driving 15 years earlier, I wouldn't have stayed. That was one of the main reasons. I can remember lying in bed, 10 years ago, bawling my eyes out, crying, trying to figure out how I was supposed to leave this relationship. Never mind the financial devastation that he had placed me in. Never mind that if I were to leave, I don't have any way to get anywhere. I am stuck because he drives me places. And that's a horrific level of awareness to come to, but a necessary one. When we come to new levels of awarenesses, the truth hurts. The truth is uncomfortable. Nobody actually wants the truth. Trust me, you don't. Until you let that truth integrate. And when in the integration process, in the release process, is when you start to empower yourself, is when the power starts to come back. The awareness that I am not two anymore. And nobody has power over me and has agency over me to drive me anywhere I don't want to go. That I am now the parent that I never had. I am the mother that is going to hold on to myself and never give me up. That's just not going to happen. I'm not giving myself up for adoption ever again. I'm not abandoning myself. I'm not betraying myself. I am not going to like force myself to endure being taken in any way, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically. In no way am I going to allow myself to be the passenger in my life. And standing into my power in the driver's seat, is what soul is demanding of me now, so that I can not only have full agency over myself and full mobility and full power. This is about empowering. And stepping into your power, it's like going, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, going through the eye of a needle, like you're birthing yourself through the eye of a needle, because what has kept you trapped and kept you small, and the trauma, the constriction, the wounds, is so powerful that our willingness to do anything and everything to prevent going through that eye of the needle, because going through the eye of the needle is death. It is death. It is death of the old consciousness. It is death of the old way of being, and it is rebirth. And it's not an easy process. It is not an easy process to thoroughly go into the wounds and excavate them and understand them and give compassion to that earlier version of ourselves. So this morning I sat for an hour just holding myself, allowing the screams to release. I'm so incredibly grateful that Spirit has moved me into a situation where I can scream. There's nobody around me. I don't have like neighboring attached houses, or I'm not in a trailer, because if I had been screaming in that last little trailer, like people would have heard. And releasing that anguish and that grief, and comforting that inner child. It's about learning to give ourselves the compassion that we never got. One of the courses I'm taking right now with Gabor Mate is his Compassionate Inquiry course. And, his approach to trauma healing is, as far as I'm concerned, based on my 30 years of looking for the answers of the way out of suffering, are groundbreaking. Okay, so groundbreaking. And he utilizes, I can see the root of a lot of his theory comes from Buddhist teachings, as well as the teachings of the elders. It is a combination of so many things that says, yes, what is the most powerful healing is a compassionate approach that says, I am so sorry that happened to you. That phrase alone. Can you say that phrase to yourself when you're in memory, instead of shaming yourself, guilting yourself, repressing yourself, putting your shadow back in the shadow, shoving it into like, I don't want to hear that, which are all programs, that we have adapted, and, it's like self-gaslighting. No, you shouldn't feel like that. No, you shouldn't do this. If you're shooting yourself, then those are previous programs. Instead of shooting yourself, can you sit in total compassion and have the inquiry, have the questioning that says, what is really going on here? What is happening here? It's okay. It's okay to be not okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to scream. It's okay to release. It's okay to like use somatic movement to like help get it out, whether that's rocking or shaking or, using your massage tool, whatever it is. It's okay. It is okay. I am sorry. I am sorry that happened to you. And so as I sat just nurturing that 2-year-old girl, I am sorry that they picked you up and shoved you in a car and treated you like trash, like treated you like a package without any humanity, without any compassion, without any understanding, without any awareness, without any knowledge of the damage that is done to children when they are put through a traumatic situation and then not offered any kind of humanity to help them process through that. So it doesn't matter what the trauma is, it is how the situation is handled after the fact. And the majority of people that I work with have never been held. And that's what it boils down to. Have never had space held for them to process through their pain from whatever age their pain and their suffering was. They didn't have a parent that had the emotional maturity or emotional depth or the level of awareness to be able to say, you know, I'm willing to hold that space. I'm willing to hold you. I'm willing to hold you without judgment, without shame, to love the shadowy aspects of you, whether those be your tears, your screams, your anguish, your anger, your rage. I'm willing to hold you, okay? So to have a parent that's willing to hold you means that you have the capacity to process through painful circumstances. And listen, life is pain. Life is pain. As Buddha said, life is pain, but suffering is optional. That doesn't mean I'm going to think my way out of suffering. I'm just going to think happy thoughts. That's not what that means, okay? What that means is in the pain, there is the choice point of giving oneself compassion so that the suffering can be transmuted, or there's to reject and shove into shadow, which only prolongs the suffering. So that's what Buddha meant, as far as I'm concerned. Buddha was talking about, listen, life is full of pain. That's one of the first noble truths. So if life is constantly going to give you pain, it's how we learn to move with life. And if you do not learn to move with life, you become stuck, stagnant, inflamed, immobile, fearful, overwhelmed, depressed, anxious, and then you get compounded by being told there's something wrong with you because you haven't learned the skill that somebody else was supposed to teach you but didn't, because they didn't learn the skill and because they weren't taught, and it goes back and back and back and back. So for thousands of years, we have been denying the human condition, which is understanding that life is pain, but through the process of compassionate inquiry, okay, through compassion, through love. And isn't this what Jesus was trying to teach us? Isn't this what Buddha was trying to teach us? Isn't this what all the other masters have been trying to teach us? That there is a way out of the suffering. And it's not anything to do with dissecting us into quadrants and oh, you have a foot problem, so we're just going to look at your foot. No, it's by looking at the whole person and understanding, what do feet represent? Stability, security. Oh, okay, maybe there's something bigger at play here. Why is it that when you get into a car, your body freezes? Oh, maybe there's something going on here. Why is it that when you're in certain situations, your desire to have a cigarette, desire to have a drink, desire overwhelms and overtakes you? Why? Let's ask the questions why. compassionate inquiry from a place of compassion. Why are you going through this? Why is this happening? It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to hold you in this space. I'm going to hold you. So as we go through this awakening process, we are learning to hold space for ourselves, all of ourselves, not just our happy, joyful self, but our shadow self, our wounded self, our traumatized self, all of ourselves, so that we give ourselves what was missing all along, the missing elements, so that we can heal. That is the process of healing. That is the process of saving yourself. So the body keeps the score. Okay, the body remembers and is screaming at you in one way, shape, or form. So then the first question is, what is my body saying to me today? What does my body need today? What's the most loving and compassionate I can do for my body today? And then do it. And then do it. Give yourself what you were never given. I need to rest today. Okay, then rest. I need to nourish myself with like types of nutrients that my body actually needs. I'm going to do it. I'm whatever it is. And if that is holding yourself through profound emotional releases, or you need help with that because it's scary. It is scary. It's been 4 years in the making for me to be able to do this from a complete surrender place, like surrendering into the tears and welcoming and guiding myself through it. But when I first started, like, I was not good at it. So don't be surprised if you're not good at it the first time or the second time or the 12th time or the 27th time, because it is a learning curve, teaching yourself things nobody ever taught you before. So I always look at, remember when you were kids, there used to be those like building blocks that kids would play with. And it's like, for a lot of us who have trauma, you were given a half a bag. And there's your half a bag. Those are your half skills. And there were a lot of things missing, a lot of skills and tools and techniques and strategies missing. So others were building bigger towers than you. It's because you only had half a bag. You were missing certain blocks, okay? So fundamental building blocks you were missing. And so in this awakening process, we need to realize that those fundamental building blocks are inside us, because they were never in our parents. They didn't have them either. And they didn't have them because the parent before. So it's like passing on a bag of building blocks that over time and over years kept losing certain things. So your parents had their own traumas from their own situations. I fully understand my mother's traumas, being raised by Christian Scientists, and they themselves going through difficult times, traveling across Canada in times when, it was challenging, or going through the Great Depression, or going through world wars, or going through, all the devastations. If you look at our history, okay, just look at humans' history. Of course, we're fucking traumatized. So we go through history and, this generation loses a couple building blocks because, maybe they were in the Holocaust. And this generation loses a couple more building blocks because there was alcoholism involved. And so by the time you got the family building block bag, you were like down to like 7 building blocks. And that's all you were given. And then to like, go figure life out. Why aren't you doing good at life? Well, I was only given 7 building blocks. And so on this awakening process, we realized that those building blocks that were missing aren't given to us by anyone outside of us. There's nobody outside of us that's coming to save you with the building blocks. Here's the building blocks. You free each of those building blocks every time you do the inner child work. Every time you do the shadow work, it's like, there's the gold. That is the missing element, is they're hidden and they're locked inside of us. So I mentioned at the beginning that show Blindspot. I think it was called Blindspot. Anyways, it is like you go into the investigation, you go into the mystery, and then at the end of it, the treasure is one of these building blocks that you can reintegrate into yourself and say, okay, wait a second. The reality is I was never trash. Even though I was put in a car and sent away like a piece of trash, I was never trash. I have great value inside of me, and I can save myself. I can mother myself. I can father myself and protect myself. I can be the lover to myself. I can be the friend to myself. I can be the guru to myself. I can be the cheerleader to myself. I can be the whatever it is. You keep on giving it to yourself. You keep on giving it to yourself. And each time you do, one more of these building blocks comes back into existence, and you can utilize it in your world outside of yourself. So it's a treasure hunt. It's a treasure hunt. So I have a lot of integrating to do with this new reality with the car. And I'm going to have to keep, retraining my body that it is safe, that I am not being driven. I am the one doing the driving. And that means I am the hero in my own story. I am the savior in my own story. I'm giving myself 3 solid months before I challenge myself again to up and move, which, ties into this as well. That little suitcase of moving along to the next, moving along to the next. There is a trauma involved in that that's keeping me small and limited, where my soul wants to be free and mobile and like go on adventures. And so my wounded self and my soul self are at odds with each other, and the soul self will win. So you surrender to your soul self and you say, listen, as much as my wounded self wants stability and staying still and staying small, your soul self says, no, that thing that you're afraid of, that fear, that's the adventure in your life. That is where the joy will be held. So I have to learn, whether I like it or not, I have to learn to find joy behind the wheel. And that's my current mission. And whatever mission you are currently on of finding sobriety or finding health or finding freedom or finding independence, everything that you're trying to find, it is going to be, there's a period there of integration that is very challenging, because it is altering you on a cellular level. Your cells have to, each individual cell in my lower back or my upper back in between my rib cage and my cells in here, need to learn that they're now safe. That nobody's going to take me somewhere I don't want to go. And nobody's in control of my life anymore. And it's going to take time for each of these cells to reprogram itself with new muscle memory that says, this isn't scary, this is fun. So I'll definitely be reporting back on how I get on with this and tools that I use for this, but ultimately it's practice, practice, practice. And it's patience, patience, patience. Because as I did the other day, the road to healing is got nothing to do with short-term gratification. It's long-term, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one hum at a time, one mantra at a time, one at a time, one at a time. That's all we can do to change our lives. But if you do one every single day at a time, over time, miraculous things happen. 4 years, I have healed my body, cleared the addictions, saved myself from disease, saved myself from numbing, saved myself from an abusive marriage, saved myself from debt, saved myself from a legal battle, saved myself from the most insane cuckoo living situation ever, saved myself from nasty friends. So every single day you make choices. Is this getting me closer to the long-term goal that I have, or is it getting me closer to short-term gratification, which is ultimately going to lead me off the path? So keep the focus on the long-term goal. You will get to the long-term goal. If you keep the focus on the short term, you're just going to stay where you are. So all the steps that lead you to the long-term gratification are not gratifying. There's very little gratification between identifying the goal of what you want and getting the goal. The in-between, like the year and a half that I was out walking every single day, not seeing any notice, not recognizing any weight loss whatsoever. You know, it wasn't like I was weighing myself every month and, oh, look, yeah, I lost 10 pounds. There was none of that. It was like, look, I'm walking like a motherfucker and I'm not getting anywhere, except my clothes feel a little bit. First of all, I got rid of the scale because that is short-term gratification. That's a loop. I got to keep watching the scale. Stop watching the scale and keep watching the end goal. The end goal is I had a little pair of shorts that I had bought myself that were Billabong, and I'm like, I'm going to get my ass into these shorts. That's the only goal. Okay, I had one goal, get into those shorts. Not, I'm almost in those shorts. I'm trying on the shorts. I'm like, no. And as I walked, the weight fell off. And I'm like, oh, these pants don't fit me anymore. Get another pair of pants. Oh, these pants don't fit me. Get another pair of pants. Because I want into those shorts. I want fun in the car. My long-term goal. So I'm not looking at the short-term, I got myself here, I got myself there. Those are like micro, like, I did it. But it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. Like driving the other day and getting honked at, that didn't feel good. This is like, this is me in a new forum doing my one day at a time. And implying the same things that already worked with all those other things to master this mountain as well. And this mountain feels like K2. It really does. You know, for a lot of you out there, it makes probably no sense. You know, why would anybody be scared of driving? Well, I've explained why it's scary to me, but you probably have other fears that you're trying to minimize. And I'm going to say, facing your fears and stepping into your power and saving yourself is the hardest thing you will ever do in your entire life. There is nothing harder than facing yourself. Nothing. Facing your fears, facing your truths, facing your shadows, facing your inner children and comforting them and showing them compassion and showing them love instead of all the stuff you've already been doing. Doing something polar opposite to the way you've always done something. There's nothing harder. There's nothing harder. But that's what we were put here to do, is to do the hard stuff. We weren't put here to like have a good time. That's not the point of life. The point of life isn't to come down and just manifest happy moments and happy dreams. It's to experience the full spectrum of all of the emotions. God didn't say to me, go down to earth and witness just good shit. That's not what the mission was. Go down and witness and experience the depravity, the cruelty, the pain, the suffering, and transmute that. And transmute that into love, to awareness, to compassion, to understanding. That's your job. Now go do that, because you're a light worker, which means you bring light into the dark. And you're a light worker too. And your job is to bring light into the dark. And that means light into your own dark places first. So if you're looking outside of yourself, that's not where the solutions are. The solutions are inside of yourself. And we heal ourselves and we save ourselves over and over and over and over again with every single choice we make. This has been an exceptionally long video. For those that made it to the end, kudos to you. Thank you. I am sending everybody out there my absolute love and compassion and understanding if you're going through the hardest of hards. You are not alone. If I can support you in any way, please let me know. And thank you. Thank you very much for seeing me, for hearing me, and for recognizing in me my value when on many days I did not. So thank you for the support that I've received with all the likes, the shares, and mostly the commentary. Like, it is... The comments I've received from my followers have been kinder than anything my mother has ever said to me in my entire life. Or any family member, actually. Kinder. I have received kinder comments from people than I have received in my entire life. And that in itself took its own crazy integration to like, what is even happening? This is like, what? So thank you very much for the comments. I greatly, greatly appreciate those. You guys are amazing. This mission is hard as fuck. And if somebody hasn't told you lately, I'm going to tell you, I'm damn proud of you. I am damn proud of you. All my compassion from my heart out there to yours. Peace. Peace. Peace in.